Good Thursday morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Everybody at once.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, I have got an interesting story for you guys this morning. I don't know if anybody heard of pig butchering? This is a real estate scam that's going on. Have you guys heard this term? Please raise your hand.
I thought you were
Nobody.
talking about real pig butchering for a
No,
second.
this is not real pig butchering. This is in the real estate space. So I just saw this article the other day. The NAR has now issued a warning to real estate professionals about a surge in pig butchering. So here's how the scam works. The scammers initiate contact by posing as wealthy all-cash home buyers, often through misdirected text messages or social media messages. Once a conversation is established, they build rapport and claim to have amassed wealth through cryptocurrency investments. They then persuade agents to invest small amounts in crypto via legitimate platforms like Coinbase. Subsequently, victims are directed to download fraudulent investment apps or access fake websites that display fabricated returns. Encouraged by apparent profits, agents are enticed to invest larger sums. Eventually, when attempting to withdraw these funds, victims find the platform to have vanished along with their money. FBI is estimating at this point there's been about $16.6 billion scammed via these cyber scams. Not necessarily just pig butchering, but all cyber scams last year. So in the last 12 months, these guys have gotten that's why you see, like, how are they still sending these emails, or how are they still sending these texts? They're getting money. 16.6 billion in the last 12 months. So any of you guys working with wealthy cash buyers that got their money via crypto? Anybody had this happen to them? No, huh?
I haven't had anybody try to scam me, but I do have a buyer that just cashed out a couple $100,000 from his crypto accounts to buy a house.
Yeah, but he seems legit.
He seems legit. I've met him 25 times in person.
Yeah, I mean, pretty extensive scam here, and I feel like you could get somebody. You know, people want the quick buck. Crypto is that sexy thing. It's on TikTok, and you can make a ton of money doing it. And you know, if you make a couple of bucks, and they told you, and they trust you, and they got rapport going, hey, this is how I made the money. You know, throw a couple of grand over here. I don't know. Doesn't seem too ludicrous, but clearly, when NAR is issuing a warning, they must have had quite a bit of feedback on this one. Just says, you know, obviously verify identities for preventative tips here. Insist on in-person meetings before making any investment decisions. Be skeptical of unsolicited offers, and report this stuff if you come across it. So. Anybody, maybe you don't have this type of a scam. Anybody else have any other type of a scam maybe that you want to throw on the table? This happened to me. Watch out for this. Stacy.
So I did have something. It wasn't crypto. It was last month, and it was someone that called me um out of the blue from maybe a Google or Zillow review, I think they said. And they had their grandmother had passed away. It was this huge long story, and I was actually driving through the town, so I offered to stop by at the house. I tried to FaceTime, which is a great idea, but they didn't answer. She said she couldn't answer. Her grandmother had passed away and left her this beautiful, gorgeous mansion outside of Boston. And it's really interesting how crazy smart these scammers are, because I literally pulled in the driveway. It's this long, like, Greek revival, beautiful house, and it was under construction, had been like in disrepair for a while, but you could tell during its glory days was gorgeous. But it's interesting how much information that the girl knew. She stayed on the phone with me for an hour and a half. I walked the property. I sent her pictures. She's like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother's house, but I'm in Ohio, and I can't get there, so I need you to list it for me and sell it." It was this like big whole, and I was like, "Is she crazy, or is it like?" She was answering all of my. I said, "Well, why is there so many trash bags on the side of the yard? And there's an oil tank. Like, did you get a permit to?" And she would like kind of know an answer, but not really. So I was like, is she Googling for the answer? I'm like, there is no way someone can stay on the phone with me for this long and answer all of my. And I was kind of getting annoyed with her because I'm like, you like, do you have brothers that are going to come? Like, are you the only heir? And she's like, no, my brothers don't care about the money. I'm like, who doesn't care about this much money? So some of the stuff was sketchy. So, anyways, I ended up hanging up with her, called the attorney right away. And he said, okay, it sounds like 50% is scam. And then he'd ask me a question. He's like, okay, it's 60% a scam. And then he asked me more question. He's like, Stacy, this is like 70% going to be a scam. So it's like, I'm like, what the hell? This is crazy. Like, I don't think it's easy to trick me. And this girl, like, she had me going for, I'd say like 3 hours of one day. I ended up finding out I went on public record. It was in a trust. People had died, right? It was Sudbury, Massachusetts. And I'm like, how do these people know? And the girl had a perfect American accent. She answered every question I had. She kind of had a delay. At points, I was like, is she an idiot? And then I'm like, you can't be rude because she was a young girl. She's saying her grandmother died. It's a sensitive situation. Didn't want to be like too rude to her, but she ended up not answering my phone a few times, and then she'd email me a week later, but we'd already discovered. Oh, he said to ask for her driver's license. She told me she didn't drive. I'm like, okay. So anyways, it was a waste of like a few days, but you just don't know because I mean, what if it was real? That's the crazy part.
Yeah, and that's how they get you, right? Because you're like, oh my God, this is a $700,000 listing, $1 million listing. Like, there's a lot of money at stake here on some of this stuff, and they're well aware, and they're just going to get better and better,
And you
right?
feel bad because it's not like she was an American girl. I don't know who her bosses, the scammers are, but the way she started answering my questions like in the days following when she did answer, what she was very uneducated. So at the beginning I felt bad. I thought it was just emotional. I thought, and I'm like trespassing on someone's property, right? Because I'm taking pictures and videos and I'm like, oh God. Like I didn't go in the house, right? But I was definitely on
On
their
it.
land.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, it's crazy how people actually it's so messed up that they're like tugging at your heartstrings and then you're trying to do your job and then they're answering all your questions. But you're like, I don't want to be rude to this girl who just lost a family member, but like she's so clueless. Anyway, glad I called the attorney and he said it just happened to someone else in Boston and that like a really big agent in Boston had gotten the same type of call on a piece of land. They went to the land, they found a buyer, and that's what I was about to do, about to call contractors and be like, "Oh, hey, come out here. Would you be interested in this?" Probably. I was about to pull other people into it, but glad I called the attorney and that was a great idea that he had to oh, and the way that that land property almost got sold in Boston to like this like other like good agent was about to like put under contract was that he asked them to set the scammer to send them a Massachusetts driver's license and they said again they didn't drive. So they sent like another ID that was like almost exact and like the attorney said that he had a hard time trying to distinguish between actual like mass ID and the fake one. So they're getting really, really good.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be identical. You're not going to be able to tell. A driver's license is not going to do the trick moving forward
That's what he said.
because
Yeah.
you're going to put a Massachusetts driver's license into ChatGPT and tell it switch the name, use this image, and I don't know what they're doing for safeguards on these platforms to stop certain things like that. I don't know if anybody's heard. But I did hear an interview with Sam Altman. He's the CEO and founder of OpenAI that created ChatGPT about like, hey, we realize like you probably can't stop or slow down because it's this race to our nation against other nations for to win this AI battle. But what are you doing to do it safe? So I assume they'll try and do some stuff like this, where the system will realize you're trying to counterfeit an ID or a document or something like that and prevent you from doing it. But I think there's always going to be workarounds, and I think this stuff's going to get scarily difficult for us to know what's real and what's not. So
For ID, always ask for both sides because on the back is a barcode, right? That can
Lauren, we're struggling to hear you a little bit. Oh, now you're fully muted.
I'm on 57. I don't know if it's funny for a sec.
Yeah, you're not breaking up. It's like you're far from the mic.
I was just
There
saying,
you go.
if you're asking for an ID, ask for both sides of it, front and back, because the back has a barcode on it that is like scannable or traceable to like the RMB to assure that the barcode matches the information on the other side.
Good tip. Anybody else on scams, something you came across? Maybe you guys are thinking about some of the clients that you have that you're currently working with that maybe they aren't as real as you thought they were. All right. Anybody else have anything else going on one of their transactions, or you learned something recently that'd be a good share for the group?
I can share, Steve.
Go ahead.
I recently submitted an offer and it was a cash offer. So the buyers did the escalation. And when we submitted, I talked to the listing agent and figured out that she had 3 more offers and all of the offers were escalation. And the escalation that we put wasn't the best one. The other parties had a better escalation clause. The listing agent went with us because they were cash buyers, but this was my first time submitting escalation clause, and it was interesting how people have drafted it versus how I drafted it. It's kind of, if my word was 550 to the asking price was 565 from 550 to 565, and the other two clauses were 2500K above 565 to 570K, if anyone can match that. So I actually like the other person's escalation offer, the way they had written versus what I had written.
There's a lot of different ways to do those escalations. I think the key metric for most of them ends up being what is your separator over the next highest offer, right? Is it $1,000 over? Is it $5,000 over? Is it $10,000 over? So I don't know if anybody that's just seen a bunch of escalations recently or has seen anything unique with regards to the escalation, but in my mind, it's that how much over are you willing to go? That's the key on those. And then behind that, that's great that you're willing to go $10,000 over. Are you going to cover that appraisal gap? Because an escalation without appraisal gap coverage really doesn't do too much.
So if there were lender offers, and that's my cash buyer, like he continuously asked me, and I wasn't sure how to answer that. So both of the other offers were both of the other offers were like they were gonna get mortgage, and they were like 15K. They were offering 15K, close to 15K. So from 550. So baseline was 550 for all. Asking price was 565. They went up to 575, 2,500 above 575. So, I mean,
I think the
how do you
concern
gauge
is
that?
I think the concern and why you were able to win is the other ones have a mortgage clause. So if it doesn't appraise for those numbers, they can't get those, values. So where your cash, right? That's obviously a lot better situation for that seller because we don't have to worry about it appraising.
But like for the mortgage, shouldn't there be a limit? I felt like even though that they were offering, it would have never come to pass. right? Or
Right.
it
That's what
doesn't matter.
the
You can.
Right, that's the appraisal, right? If they're not going to be able to get the loan, so that's why, if you're the listing agent and you've got one that's cash but it's a little bit lower, there's a lot more guarantee there than going with the financed one that's at a higher number, and you got to worry about the appraisal coming in at value. So if
And
you're
I
the
think
person with the financed offer, you've got to follow back up with, and if it doesn't appraise, we're going to put an appraisal gap in. Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, right, so kind of what you wrapped up there with. Just because it's financing doesn't mean that those people don't have a bunch of extra liquid cash available to pay an appraisal gap, right? People who have cash choose to use mortgages all the time. And then second part, I saw something really interesting on an escalation clause that said we will go whatever 5,000 over your next best one, must be presented to us within the next 24 hours. So it wasn't like don't use our offer to go get something higher to push us. It was like you have to either have an offer in hand right now or within the next 24 hours time on it, which I thought was really creative.
Yep, I like that. I haven't heard that one. But yeah, show us that you got it, and not that you're trying to use it to go get it.
Thanks,
Again,
Lauren. Thank you.
difficult to, in New England right now, like difficult to control the negotiation, right? Hey, that's great. You want 24 hours? We'll get it to you when we want, if you want this deal, right? So just make sure you know if you're in the driver's seat or you're not. So it depends on the property that you're offering on. Who else? Shaston.
So I had a bit of a win yesterday. I had a client that I just started working with a few weeks ago, and we've been looking at some properties in the Nokomis area, and he ended up finding one. And our Florida market is obviously a big contrast to what you guys are seeing up north. So we have all the leverage on the buyer side right now. So we found this home, and any offer that we submit, I always run comps because I just want to make sure, especially right now, if we're coming in lower, we have the justification when we're submitting an offer. So there were some things about the home. It was a brand new construction, beautiful home. There were some preferences with the house, and not small preferences, but preferences from the buyer that they just wish that they could change. So they were getting quotes, and we had the advantage of working directly with a builder. It's not a big builder or anything like that, but they had a few properties in this community, and we had the advantage of negotiating directly with them. So one thing my clients didn't like was that there was carpet in two of the bedrooms where they wanted tile. Um, there was the electrical outlet in the middle of the living room, the ones they put in the floor. It didn't have one of those. So just, I mean, accumulative, they were probably $16,000 to make all these changes to swap everything out. So I ran the comparables, and I knew that they were way, way, way overpriced. I mean, this home had been, minus the new construction, had been sitting on the market for over a year. So once I was kind of looking into everything, I'm like, they're still very, very overpriced. So I suggested, a number that my client should go in at. We ended up submitting an offer like crazy low, like 260,000 under asking. They came back, and we were kind of countering back and forth. And on top of that, my client wanted to ask for, closing costs. We added the tile and the carpet stuff in, the electrical outlets. We were asking for all of it. Um, they ended up coming back, and we agreed last night on a final number. They took off $160,000 off that asking price and agreed to do all the work and pay for my client's closing costs. So it was like a huge win for my client. They feel like they got a great deal. And I feel like, they're not going to move into this house and feel they've overpaid for it or anything like that. But by far the most I think I've ever negotiated off of something, and it was crazy. I swear they were going to say no, like, you guys are crazy, we won't even look at it. But after, and we really pushed on the comparables, I'm like, that these homes are selling for X amount, there's no way we're going to come close to that number. And they actually said, we're only going to go here. My seller countered the last time and he says, we're firm at this number. They came back again one more time and he went and he's like, nope, we're firm. So after that, we thought, okay, we're going to move on. My client's telling me just start sending me more listings for this area. So I was getting ready to do that. And then the list agent called and she's like, all right, they agreed. We signed it. It's on its way over. So
And
huge
what,
win.
Shaston, this is huge. What was the list price originally?
The list price, very specific. It was a builder, and I remember it because I've had to research so much on this property. They've only had one price reduction over the 2 years since it was originally listed, and I was listed at $1,111,682. So really odd number. We ended up wrapping it up at around 950, and then 950, and on top of that, all the additional things, the closing costs. They're paying for a deep clean for the home. Like there's a lot of things that we included.
And what was the gap on that final? Hey, we're not going any lower. How far off were you guys at that point before? And then they came back again and said, okay, we'll do it.
They were at 987, and my client originally wanted to go to 925. And he ended up bringing it up to 950. And so they countered and they said, we'll bring it down to 950, but we won't touch any of the any of the replacement of the flooring. We won't do any of the electrical, none of that. So my client said, no, either it's 950 and you do all the work or we don't have a deal. So that's when they called back and they're like, all right, we signed, it's on its way, and we're officially under contract.
I love it. I love it. And sounds like the negotiations went on for a while here, right? So again, when you have the leverage and you have the ability to just walk away from a deal, right? That's obviously a huge leverage point. And how you can win negotiations like this.
Definitely. This went on for about 3 days. And I think we countered back and forth in total like 6 times. And the very last time, my client, he was actually upset. He's like, I don't want to play these games. I don't want to do this. And he essentially told me to call them and tell them to shove it. But I'm like, I'm going to call and I'm going to tell them that you don't want this. And I said, but I just need to know if they come back and say, all right, we agree. Are you okay with that? He says, yeah, I'm fine with that if they agree. So he was essentially telling me that he just doesn't want to deal at all. He wanted me to pass that on. But, I know, especially in this market, when you go back, even though you think the seller is firm and they're not moving anymore, it's really tough a year on market to watch a deal walk away. You've got something that's hot on the fire. You're not going to sit there and say, oh, well, I'll just wait for the next one to come along in another 6 to 12 months. It just doesn't make sense. So, and this market's declining. I mean, from where we were even 6 months ago, it's a stark contrast. So, but it was, big win for him, and he felt really good about the deal at the end of the day. He's getting a new home. It's going to be move-in ready. We've got all the stuff being done, so he doesn't have to worry about dealing with contractors. So huge success.
Yeah, great share, Shaston. Congrats. Sounds like you earned it on this one, and you got a happy client, and probably at the end of the day, a seller that's pretty happy too. So
Yeah, thanks.
Lauren, hand is still up, or you got something else? You're muted if you're trying to go, Lauren. All right. I think we've lost Lauren officially. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Anybody else have a win, a share?
Sorry, I lost you guys for a second. Zilla was calling.
Did you still have something else, Lauren?
No, I
Okay.
probably just hit a button by accident. Sorry.
All right, no worries. The other piece of news that I saw that I thought was interesting is Open Door has just hit a non-compliance notice with the NASDAQ. So I think most of you guys know Open Door was like a high-end or big-scale flipper. And they are a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And apparently, when your stock price falls below $1 for 30 consecutive trading days, the NASDAQ will give you one of these non-compliance notices. I guess you have What does it say here? If Open Door doesn't get its stock price back above $1 for 10 consecutive days within the next 180 calendar days, NASDAQ could delist it. So Open Door shares have dropped over 90% from their 2021 high. So just kind of a final nail in the coffin for these big groups that kind of came in and thought they could just buy at scale and flip. If any of you guys have looked into this or done a flip, there's just so many little intricacies, so many little pockets of a market, so many little things that can go wrong with a property, and it's very difficult to make money doing the flips. If the market is going up, it's obviously a little bit easier. As you're holding a property, it's appreciating. But in a down market like you got in Florida, or even a stable market, these investors are taking some risks. So yeah, there's some profits for them when they do it right. But they are taking risks. And I think a lot of us have seen Open Door. Sometimes the pricing was just like almost to the level of what you could get on the open market, with them trying to be competitive. And if you don't have the margins, you can't turn around and move these properties. So I think you put that in the book of fail. I think most of you guys know that Zillow tried to do this as well. They tried to be iBuyers. That was a fail as well. So I think the iBuyer days are over. I think you'll still see your local individuals doing this on a smaller scale. That's the only way I think that you can make this work. So I don't know if anybody had any questions, comments, thoughts regarding the iBuyers or anything you've learned from dealing with iBuyers. Tyler.
Well, I'll just say I work with a flipper, and we've done almost 10 deals together now. Knock on wood, made money on all of them. Open Door comes in at a ridiculous price. I really don't understand how they were making money. I recently just had a seller lead. Well, I've been talking to them for a long time, but they also wanted to sell their house, but they also want to sell their mom's house. Mom's house needs a lot of work. Don't want to list it and have people go through it or anything like that. Want the Open Door offer. The Open Door offer came in like 10% higher than what I think the home would sell for by listing it. And it's just ridiculous, because I'm looking at, I have a mild understanding of the costs of the work and materials, and I just don't see the profits. I don't understand it at all, how they're coming in at some of these high prices. Because when I've done it with my reoccurring client, we're coming in extremely low. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars lower. Because of that, because we know we'll list at a certain price. If we need to drop it, we have room to drop the price, negotiate, so on and so forth, and still walk out with a generous profit. And even if it's not, you get out of there with some sort of profit and don't lose money. I'm not surprised Open Doors kind of falling apart, though.
Yeah. I don't, you look at a lot of the offers that they're making and going, how the heck could you make money? So I think it worked. I think you saw a lot of these guys come around the COVID time. They started to scale. And when the market's going up, there's room for you to make an error, right? You think it's worth 500,000. It was really worth 450. You hold it for a few months. Maybe you do a couple of renovations. But now the market's appreciated, and now it actually is worth the 500 that you misread when you were acquiring. But if you misread now and you acquire and the market goes down or it stays flat, you are in some trouble. So
yeah, I don't know if you've seen their flips in person, what they actually do, but it's the cheapest materials possible.
Yeah. I have not seen or been in an Open Door flip, but I have heard that it's, lipstick on a pig. We will use the pig reference twice today. Linda.
I read yesterday that Fannie Mae is predicting that by the end of this year, interest rates will be at 6.1, and in next year they're going to be down in the fives. That is going to be a huge disruptor and game changer for everyone wherever you may live.
Yeah, I've just seen so many of these rate predictions over the years, and I just think I'm laughing now when anybody tries to predict interest rates. They Keeping Current Matters was where I first started to really track this stuff. They would have their kind of index, and they would show like the 10 different companies and what their predictions are, and I've just seen it go completely in the other direction of what these guys predict. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're off by huge. It's just nobody knows. That's the reality. So I've kind of given up on kind of when these guys make these predictions of where they think things are going. As I've tracked it for so long that I've never seen somebody consistently getting it right. So that's my 2 cents on interest rates. I think when we're talking to our clients, you really got to be buying because you need to buy, because it is the right thing to do for your personal situation, your family situation, whatever the case might be, and not worried about where rates are. If rates are high, but you still need a property and it's going to make you happy, I think you should buy a house. But just because rates are low, we shouldn't be buying a property, etc. So those are my thoughts on rates. I am dealing with I believe, a tick on my desk here. So I have been just keeping an eye on it. I had a tick scare a couple of weeks ago, so I am now on high alert with ticks. So I apologize for being a little distracted over the past couple of minutes. But this was a good show to wrap up the week. A reminder to everybody, we will not do this tomorrow. I am traveling, but we will be back at it again on Monday. So enjoy your next couple of days. I hope you guys all put some deals together. Hopefully have some amazing wins like Shaston shared with us today. So go crush your weekends, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.